A few days ago, 4 terrorists entered India and killed 27 tourists in Kashmir in front of their families. The victims were asked to recite the Kalma or the Islamic proclamation that there is no other God other than Allah or something like that. They had their Aadhaar cards checked for their identity and even had their pants pulled down to check whether or not they were circumcised, to confirm whether or not they were Hindu or Muslim. Once it was confirmed that they were Hindu men, they were shot down. It was cowardly and heinous, and it probably makes you angry, and it should make you angry. And no matter how it looks like, on the larger scale of things, this wasn't religiously motivated. I mean, for these terrorists, it was. They probably hated Hindus more than anyone else. But there is politics and history behind this. So let's talk history, since this is a history channel. On the 14th of August 1947, Pakistan was made independent on a really faulty premise. It was the two-nation theory, which stated that Hindus and Muslims have different culture and aspirations and everything that makes them impossible to coexist. So now that India was going to become a Hindu majority democracy, they felt that the Muslims would be underrepresented in the government. And luckily for them, the Muslim majority areas of the subcontinent were roughly bunched around two different areas. The area that is the modern day Pakistan and the area that is the modern day Bangladesh. West and East Pakistan. Now, while India was a union of states with a somewhat shared culture and history, and you can kind of sort of argue that about Bangladesh as well, Pakistan is situated in the speed bump of the subcontinent. When the Achaemenid Persians tried to conquer India, they were able to conquer up to roughly the region of Pakistan. Same with Alexander's conquest. Same with the resulting Indo-Greek kingdoms that came after. The beginnings of Indo-Scythians and the Kushans and the Halcon Huns were all in Pakistan as well. All were unable to make inroads deep into the subcontinent except the Kushans. Post-Maurya Empire, almost no indigenous Indian empire was able to conquer west of Indus and hold it for a long time. Even when the Arabs came and the subsequent Muslim kingdoms of Persia tried to conquer India, they were only able to hold on to the area that is west of Indus. This made it so that while the kingdoms west of Indus were Indic, they stopped being Indian. Eventually, Islamic invaders made it deep into India, and there was no area that wasn't at some point or the other conquered by an Islamic king, except Northeast India. But the genocide and the replacement of the local population that happened around Indus was unmatched almost anywhere else. What this resulted in was a Muslim majority region roughly around Indus, around the time of the British Raj. So when the partition between a secular India and a Muslim Pakistan was to happen, this is around where they naturally chose Pakistan to be. And while the British did a rushed job at creating the two countries, there really wasn't a right way to do it. Pakistan was a country that was full of regions that had nothing to do with each other, aside from religion. In Pakistan, you had the other half of Punjab, Sindh, a secular area that wasn't so keen about joining a Muslim majority Pakistan compared to Punjab. Balochistan, which was an area that had very little to do with the subcontinent and its culture, and it hadn't been part of this subcontinent's culture for a long time. Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, which was basically the areas of Afghanistan that the British had been able to conquer, and a whole other country on the other side of the subcontinent. So naturally there would be a lot of separatists. The Bengali people wanted their own country. Pashtuns of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa wanted to rejoin their Afghan brothers. The Baloch wanted their own nation, and the Sindhis weren't so keen either. And on top of that, countries that it saw as enemies surrounded it on all sides. There was Afghanistan, which at that time was a real threat, and it wanted KPK back. There was the Shia Iran and there was the pagan India on one side of West Pakistan and all sides of East Pakistan. This is where religion does come into play. India did not want to have bad relations with Pakistan, and neither did Jinnah for the while he was alive. All of that despite the partition massacre that happened. But when Jinnah died, the only institution that Pakistan was able to rely on was the military, because it was left behind from the time of the British. So the military took over, and the way to justify its existence or its power over the people, it had to make someone the villain. And aside from Afghanistan, its main villain became India, which was full of Kafirs or Hindus. So the military stayed in power to keep India and Afghanistan at bay and to make sure that there was no separatist movement that succeeded. Even then, in 1971, one separatist movement did work. This made it so that the military was the government. Every once in a while, they would pretend that they held elections and there is a civilian government, but they wouldn't even get to complete their terms before they were kicked out for one reason or the other by the military. Another thing that it did was fund terrorists or rebels in its neighboring countries, like Naxals in India and the rebels against the king in Afghanistan. Now, in the 80s, the Soviets invaded Afghanistan, and to counter its influence in the area, the US funded a terrorist organization or mujahideens or rebels against the Russians, and they did that through Pakistan. With this, they got the ability to mass produce terrorists, indigenous terrorists they used to destabilize Afghanistan and India. I mean, at the end of the day, raising these terrorists ended up causing more trouble for Pakistan, and it even backfired on America, but it ended up destabilizing Afghanistan more than it normally would have been, because a stable Afghanistan would probably have destabilized Pakistan. As India surged ahead of Pakistan, which, fun fact, was not always a given, Pakistan started to shift its strategy against India from participating in all-out wars to creating a death by 1,000 cuts. It funded communal discord within India. It funded terrorist organizations within India, from separatist movements in Punjab to separatist movements in Northeast and separatist movements in Kashmir. It had always been done to destabilize India. It didn't work though, and that's because if you have seen Indian history, the only one that can destabilize India is India. So if assuming that this Pahalgam incident was funded by Pakistan, which, I mean, come on, man, who else would it be? If it is done by Pakistan, what does it accomplish? This part is completely opinion based and not fact. Well, communal tension within India has been running high for the last few years, reaching a fever pitch because of a movie of all things. A terrorist attack that seems this religiously motivated is bound to make the tensions between the Hindus and the Muslims worse. But if we take the revenge of the blood of Indians with the blood of other Indians, the terrorists would have won. The more you corner a group of people, the more you radicalize them. I mean, look, Pakistan was founded on the two-nation theory, which said that the Hindus and Muslims could not live together, which is why Pakistan was a Muslim majority country, which, I mean, became a Muslim only country, and India, which was supposed to be a Hindu only country, became a Hindu majority country where Hindus and Muslims lived largely harmoniously. A day before the Pahalgam attack, the Pakistani general basically declared war on India by reaffirming the two-nation theory and basically telling his people that they are of superior culture, implying when compared to Hindus. That's the kind of rhetoric that Nazi Germany would have. But their goal to sow hate in between Hindus and Muslims didn't work. I mean, India somehow finds a way to avoid catastrophe every time. The other goal must be to isolate Kashmir, put fear in the minds of Indians from going there. But Indians are still going there in droves. And now the whole country wants blood. Left wing, right wing, center wing, your uncle. Everyone wants Pakistani blood instead of general Muslim blood, Pakistani blood. It somehow managed to unite India more than anything else. Like everything about their plan backfired, and now they're telling their people that the reason why India is going to war with them is because of some election. Like what election? This is the year with the least amount of elections in this decade. But here's the thing about terrorism. Even if it backfired, or Pakistan manages to divide into 5 different countries, or India manages to destroy their terror outfit completely and somehow pull a miracle and stand united like this for the next 10 years, the next terrorist attack is still going to happen. All it takes for a terrorist attack to happen is a disgruntled man with a weapon of war, usually funded by your enemy. But it's going to strike terror in your heart in a way that is not rational. I mean, it is emotion-wise rational, but not logically. I mean, the most dangerous thing you can do is to jaywalk onto the road. But Indians do that all the time. But we are going to get terrified of a once-off freak event and never go to Kashmir again. That's how terrorism destabilizes a country. Do not let it destabilize you.